All right, if I can literally have about 5 minutes of your time. I sent you all an email on Friday, which you may or may not have seen. All right, because at least Aaron had gotten a hold of me and said, "Hey, I'm kind of confused. What's due from chapter 19?" Oh, okay. And have you been cleared with Miss Ruggeman? Okay, good. All right. So, as it says, as you are aware in class, I went over and gave you a copy of an original program. So in other words, the one that we did originally was this one. It had all of the data grid views. I gave you that. All right. Then what I asked you to do was to basically go back in and redo this, but I didn't want it done with data grid views. In other words, I wanted you to pull the individual fields in. So it would look like this. And you could go from table to table. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so for chapter 18, 16, 7, whatever it was, the first chapters in there, we did that SQL tester and we did a couple of simplistic programs. I asked you to kind of code along with me. Again, I screwed up. And from now on, I'm going to have to talk to Mr. Gudmested and find out exactly what he's having students do for a project. And I'm going to have students do a project. But in lieu of a project, and because I wanted to make sure you at least did something with databases where you had more than just an introduction. So we did some of this work as a class and some of this work I'm asking you to do. All right, so the homework, there's two sets of homework. One is for like 16, 17, and 18, and one is for 19 and 20. They will each be worth 25 points. That's all you're going to have. I'm not going over any more written tests with you. I'm not going over any more, we're not having any more hands-on tests, etc. So the idea is this week, you've got plenty of time that you can go in, get this done if you haven't gotten it done, and also go in and create your electronic portfolios. And again, I gave you the link where I went out to MobiRise and created a very simplistic tutorial over 45 minutes. How you do that is up to you. And what I'm saying is, I don't care if you use MobiRise. Those of you who were in the class last semester, I don't care if you do it in Bootstrap. I don't care if you do it in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, etc. You do that any way you want to do it. All right. Also, as far as that goes, I'm sure I probably won't be able to find it, but let's see. Somewhere in here in my mess of stuff. There. Now again, this is that preview from the thing. You've already got this. I gave this to you already. But that said, it's going to be different if you took the class last semester as opposed to not taking the class last semester. But as it says, use web authoring tools, which again means either HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc., or Bootstrap with those, or MobiRise, something like that. Design, develop, and publish an electronic portfolio. So this does have to be out there on iwt.rankin.edu. I went out last week and tried to log in as each and every one of you, and I was able to do so. All right, and then I sent you again your username and your password. You should try today already to get into FileZilla and make sure that you can get into that. If you cannot, let me know. I will try to get in, and if I have to, I will go into my remote desktop connection and again reset your password. I don't know why it's flaky like that, but it's flaky like that. All right. So as it says, no credit will be given if your web portfolio isn't live on the internet. So in other words, don't push it out to GitHub. I don't want it out there. Okay. When you go in, and I don't even know if I can go into mine or not. I think I changed my password, but I don't remember. So let's see. And if I did, so this will be iwt.rankin.edu. Your username will be, mine's JP Scott, but yours will be your first initial and your last name. Your password will be what I gave you. Hopefully that's the right one, and if it's not, you're going to know as fast as I do. Your port will be 21, which is the default port. Of course, it would be wrong. There. So when it comes up, it should look like this. Now yours is going to have almost nothing on here, especially you guys. You'll probably have a file that says test.html and nothing else. But what you guys should do is, if you're going to use MobiRise, follow the steps either in one of those videos or the video I gave you. Then when you get all done, create an empty portfolio or an empty folder named Portfolio on your desktop. Tell it in MobiRise that you want to publish it to that folder. Then you'll have something here that's called Portfolio in here. I don't, but you will. And then you just take the folder and literally drag it from here onto here. And when you do that, it'll say transferring. If you've got a lot of pictures, it might take up to a minute or two. If you have virtually no pictures, it'll take just a few seconds. And then to get to that, so you'll notice, for example, I've got an ePortfolio. I think this is the one I put out there from the video. So then if you want to see and make sure yours works, you'll say iwt.rankin.edu/yourportfolio. So mine is, or your username, mine is JP Scott / and you should have a folder either called Portfolio or ePortfolio. Does that make sense? It should have a file in it that's called index.html. That's the file that should open. So if I just type in here ePortfolio and nothing else, I'm going to get rid of the rest of this, and I hit enter, it's going to bring up my index.html. It'll spin for a while, but it should bring it up. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, this server has been kind of quirky over the years. All right, and it may or may not work. If for some reason, if you go, hey, I've been trying this forever, it just won't work. Well, then you can go and send it up to GitHub. All right, or you can zip it, and if it's not that big, email it to me. But this is the one I created in that video. Again, there's not much to this. No, that's not me. But it was just some examples, etc. So I'm expecting to have something like this. This is due because it had said on here, because I stupidly said, where is it? No, it's over here. That it was due 8 o'clock on Thursday, so that's when it's due. Friday morning, you do not have to come in here. I am going to be grading all Friday morning. If either your project is not out here or I can't read it and you haven't let me know what the hell's going on, you're going to get a 0. That's happened before. All right. So as it says in here, at a minimum, you should have some kind of a home page. So you can put everything on one page and just put stuff down, especially if you're using MobiRise, if that's easier. Or you can use MobiRise and just create new pages for everything. It's not really hard to do. All right, but it should have some kind of a home section, an about you, which might be the home section, a resume, all right, examples of your portfolio, and a contact form. And all of it should work. So in other words, on my contact form, I didn't literally send it out, but you can come in there and set that stuff up so that it'll go out and you do what's called a mail to, and you guys know what that is. And you can tell it to basically, so if somebody looks at your portfolio and comments on it in the contact form, it'll immediately come to you. Does that all make sense? Does everybody understand what I'm asking you to do? So by Thursday of this week, because again, I'm going to be grading Thursday night. I'm hoping on Friday when I come in here, I don't have a lick to grade. And the reason for that is I've got to fill out all these student outcome assessment things. I've got to do one for each class, and each one takes a couple hours to do and do correctly because I've got to go back and look over old data and everything else. So that's going to be my 8 till noon. All right. And by noon, they would prefer it if we had our grades put in already on Friday. I think I told you this already. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Now, if some kind of an emergency comes up or something comes up, like what? Like how about one of my afternoon students telling me that over the weekend, a member of their family tested positive. You know what that's like. So they're not going to be here this week. So they're basically, they're going to have to do everything virtually. All right. But there's 5 of the rest, there's 6 of you then here right now. The whole class is here. All right. Now, and if you say to me, well, how about if I get all my work in, and let's say it's Tuesday and I've got all my work in and I've got my portfolio in and I'm done. Do I have to come anymore? I don't make those determinations. You do. To me, one of the more foolhardy questions you can ask is, do I have to come? Again, I look at it this way, that when you're here for 2 years, it's kind of your job. And I can't imagine you'd go into work and say, I know I was reading your thing the other day, and you still work at IHOP. I don't imagine that you would come in there and say, hey, boss, there's really not a lot of customers. I'm just going to leave. Especially if you're the only person working there doing what you're doing. Because guess what? More customers might come in. And again, in the same way, you've got other stuff that you can be working on. If nothing else, all right, those of you, you guys who want to, and I've shown you this already, it's going to be the last time, I promise, this semester at least, I would strongly recommend that if you say, well, what can I do? All right. I would go out, I don't know where it is. I'm sure I won't be able to find it now, but here, type in Mozilla Web Development into your browser and bring up the third one or second or third one down, Learn Web Development. This is what I'm going to start on next week. I'm going to start taping from this. There will be a YouTube channel out there next week for this. I haven't done a lick on it. There's tons of these things in here, and they're not small. All right. This will take me more probably than the whole week to work on. So, but I'm hoping to at least get started on it and have it done within a couple weeks. All right. The books that you guys are going to have for next semester, there are 2 Muroc books. And it's the same ones that you guys had, except there's a new version of the JavaScript book. So this is it here, HTML5 and CSS3. We're not going to go over that book in detail. They want us to really cut down on the amount of time we spend on CSS and HTML, and they want us to ramp up or have more time that we spend on JavaScript and jQuery. So those are the 2. All right. And for the rest of you, fortunately or unfortunately, there is not going to be a book next semester. All right. There's a lot of political reasons and stuff that go into that. But if you said, well, I'd really like to get started, well, there's a lot of good resources out there and a lot of resources that are not that good out there, just so you know. But if you guys wanted to, then I'd recommend you go out to YouTube, and there's a couple things. I'll try to remember to send you links on this. The first one is I would put out Mosh Hamandani Node.js. Mosh is a developer, and he's got a thing in here, Node.js tutorial, learn Node in an hour. No, you don't learn it in an hour, but he introduces it to you. You're also going to be going over React, and he's got a React one as well. Notice there's a full playlist here. I don't know what's all in here, but he's got some really good stuff. He's good. There's also, I can't remember who did this. There's a Node.js tutorial. There's 2 of them. Here's one of them, a free code camp. It's 8 hours long. You could at least look through that and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense to you. But there's other ones out here as well. Brad Traversy has really good stuff. I'm one of his Patreons. And he's got an hour-and-a-half Node.js crash course. You could start looking at that. And if you say, okay, fine, any last things? Yeah. Go look through your JavaScript book from last semester, because that's where we're going to start. We're going to have an overview of JavaScript, plus we're going to go over the stuff in JavaScript that was in your book that we didn't cover last semester. Does all that make sense? So you should now know what we're going to start doing next semester. You should now know what we're going to start doing next semester. Between that and any gen ed work that you have to do, I mean, I don't walk around as much as I probably should have or should be doing. All right, I know that because I look around a little bit. Some of you are playing videos and you're watching movies and you're playing games. If Mr. Corrigan walks by here and he sees, I don't know if he can see your machines, but if he sees you playing games, he'll come talk to you. I'm just telling you. He may have even talked to some of you already. I know that we had a student who used to sit right there so I could see his machine. And he'd play games. He literally would play games. That's all he'd do. All right. And he was, we finally brought in his parents and we talked to them. And then he changed a little bit and he got better and he ended up graduating. I don't know if he got hired or not. I know he was up for a couple jobs. All right. But that's not what we expect you to do. So hopefully you got enough to keep you busy. All right. All right. That's all I got to say. It's not letting you log in? All right. I will try then. What's that? Yes, they do. Yeah, if it shows, because it wanted it to have a special character in there, so I just put a comma at the end of all the things I sent you. You're right. Yeah, so if you try that and it doesn't work, yes, let me know. Good.